ओम ओम गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्त्रवं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पत आनुशृण्वोतिभिस्सीदसादनम्। ओम महागणाधिपतये नमः। ओम केशवाय नमः। ओम नारायणाय नमः। ओम माधवाय नमः। ओम गोविंदाय नमः। ओम विष्णवे नमः। मत्सूदनाय नमः। त्रिविक्रमाय नमः। वामनाय नमः। श्रीधराय नमः। ऋषिकेशाय नमः। पद्मनाभाय नमः। दामोदराय नमः। संकर्षणाय नमः। वासुदेवाय नमः। प्रद्युम्नाय नमः। अनिरुद्धाय नमः। पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। दोक्षाय नमः। नारसिंहाय नमः। अच्युताय नमः। जनार्दनाय नमः। उपेन्द्राय नमः। हरे नमः। श्री कृष्णाय नमः। श्री कृष्णाय नमः। श्री कृष्णाय नमः। हरि ओम. Before starting Mahabharata, always we pray small prayer. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. So we request Narayana to support before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest. One should offer respectable obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, utmost Mother Saraswati and Ganesha. Here, Suta Maharshi is discussing with the Shaunaka and other Maharishis in Naimisharanya, a place which is free of Kali's empowering area. Suta Maharshi said, having thus spoken to Vyasa, the Brahma came to Vyasa Maharshi ashrama and spoken to Vyasa Maharshi and advised him to write Mahabharata. Then Brahma retired his own abode from Veda Vyasa ashrama in the bank of Saraswati river. Then Vyasa Maharshi requested Lord Ganesha to take dictation of writing. Ganesha is a removal of all obstacles and he is ready to fulfill the desires of his devotees. Was no sooner thought of than he repaired to the place where Vyasa Maharshi was seated. And when he had been saluted and was seated, Vyasa Maharshi addressed him thus, O guide of the Ganas, be thou the writer of the Mahabharata, which I have formed in my imagination, which I am about to repeat. Ganesha, upon hearing this address, he answered, I will become the writer of the work, provided my pen do not for a moment cease writing. And Vyasa Maharshi said unto the divinity, wherever thereby anything thou dost not comprehend, cease to continue writing. Ganesha, having signified his assent for this situation by repeating the word Om, proceeded to write, and Vyasa Maharshi began. And by way of diversion, he knit the knots of the composition exceeding, by doing which he dictated his work according to his engagement, according to the engagement of Lord Ganesha. Suta Maharshi continued to tell the Parayana, Mahabharata Parayana to Saunaka and Maharishis in Naimisharanya. He said, O Munis, no one is able to this day to penetrate those closely knit difficult slokas. Even the omniscient Ganesha took a moment to consider, while Vyasa Maharshi, however, continued to compose other verses in the great abundance. The wisdom of this work, written by Lord Ganesha, dictated by Veda Vyasa Maharshi, unto an instrument of applying the whole Mahabharata, Lord Ganesha writing and Vyasa Maharshi is dictating. As the sun The Mahabharata, by its discourses on religion, profit, pleasure, and final release, dispel the ignorance of the people. As the full moon by its mild light expanded, the birds of the water lily, so this Mahapurana, Mahabhagavata Purana, Mahabharata Purana, by exposing the light of the Shruti, has expanded the human intellect by the lamp of history which destroys the darkness of ignorance. The whole mansion of nature is properly and completely illuminated. This work is like a big tree of which the chapter after chapter contains his seed. The divisions called Pauloma and Astika are the root. The part called Sambhava is the trunk. The books called Sabha and Aranya are the roosting breeches. The books called Arani is the knitting knots. The books called Virata and Udyoga and Pita, the book named Bhishma, the main branch. The book called Drona, the leaves. The book called Karna, the fair flowers. The book called Shalya, their sweet smell. The books entitled Sri and Aishika, the refreshing shade. The book called Santi, the mighty fruit. The book called Ashwamedha, the immortal sap. The denominated Ashramavasika, the spot where it grows. And the book called Mausala is an epitome of the Vedas and held in great respect by various great rishis and brahmanas. The tree of Bharata, inexhaustible to mankind, as the clouds shall be a source of livelihood to all distinguished poets. Suta Maharshi continued, I will now speak of the undying, flowery, and fruitful productions of this tree, possessed of pure and pleasant taste, and not to be destroyed even by the immortals. Formerly, the spirited and virtuous Krishnadvaipayana Maharshi, by the injunctions of Bhishma, the wise son of Ganga, and his own mother, Satyavati, became the father of three boys who were like the three fires by the two wives of Vichitravirya, and having thus raised up Dhritarashtra, Pandu, Vidura, he returned to his recluse abode to prosecute his religious exercise. It was not till after these were born, grown up, and departed on the supreme journey that the great Rishi Vyasa Maharshi published the Mahabharata in this region of mankind, when being solicited by Janamejaya and thousands of Brahmanas, he instructed his disciple Vaishampayana, who was seated near him, and he sitting together with the Sadasyas recited the Mahabharata during the intervals of ceremonies of the sacrifices, being repeatedly urged to proceed. Vyasa Maharshi has fully represented the greatness of the house of Kuruvamsha, the virtuous principles of Gandhari, the wisdom of Vidura, and the constancy of Kunti. The noble Rishi has also described the divinity of Vasudeva, the and the rectitude of the sons of Pandu and the evil practices of the sons of partisans of Dhritarashtra, Duryodanas, and his other brothers. Vyasa Maharshi executed the compilation of the Mahabharata exclusive of the episodes originally in 24,000 verses. And so much only is called by the learned as the Bharata, Afterwards, he composed an epitome in 150 verses, consisting of the introduction with chapter of the contents. This he first taught to his son Shuka Maharshi, and afterwards he gave it to others of his disciples who were possessed of the same qualifications. After that, he executed another compilation consisting of 600,000 verses. Of those, 300,000 are known in the world of the Devas, 1,500,000 in the world of Pitris, 1,400,000 among the Gandharvas, and 100,000 in the regions of mankind. Narada recited them to Devas, Devala to the Pitrus, and Shuka published them to the Gandharvas, Yakshas, and Rakshasas. And in this world, they were recited by Vaishampayana, one of the disciples of Vyasa Maharshi, a man of just principles, and the first among all those acquainted with the Vedas. Suta Maharshi also repeated 100,000 verses. Yudhishthira is a vast tree formed of religion and virtue. Arjuna is its trunk, Bhimasena its branches. The two sons of Madri are its full grown fruit and flowers, and its roots are Krishna, Brahma, and the Brahmanas. Pandu, after having subdued many countries by his wisdom and prowess, took up his abode with the Munis in a certain forest as a sportsman, where he brought upon himself a very severe misfortune for having killed a stag coupling with his mate, which served as a warning for the conduct of the princes of his house as long as they lived. Their mothers, in order that the ordinances of the law might be fulfilled, admitted as a substitutes to their embraces the gods of Dharma, that is Yama, Vayu, Sakra, and the divinities of the twin Ashwins. And when their offspring grew up under the care of their two mothers, in the society of ascetics, in the midst of the sacred groves and holy recluse abodes of religious men, they were conducted by rishis into the presence of Dhritarashtra and his sons, following as students in the habit of brahmacharis, having their hair tied in knots on their heads. These our pupils, said they, are as your sons, your brothers, and your friends. They are Pandavas. Saying this, the Munis disappeared. When the Kauravas saw them introduced as sons of Pandu, the distinguished class of citizens shouted exceedingly for joy. Some, however, said they were not the sons of Pandu, others said they were, while a few asked how they could be his offspring, seeing he had been so long dead. Still, on all sides, voices were heard crying, they are, on all accounts, welcome. Through divine providence, we behold the family of Pandu. Let their welcome be proclaimed. As these acclamations ceased, the, the invisible spirits, causing every point of the heavens to resound, were tremendous. There were showers of sweet scented flowers and the sound of shells and kettle drums. Such were the wonders that happened on the arrival of the young Princess Pandu sons. Dharmaraya, this is called Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, and Nakula Sahadeva, these five princes. The joyful noise of all the citizens, in expression by their satisfaction on the occasion, was so great that it reached the very heavens in magnifying manner. Having studied the whole of the Vedas and sundry other Shastras, the Pandavas resided there, respected by all and without apprehension from anyone. The principal men were pleased with the purity of Yudhishthira, the courage of Arjuna, the submissive attention of Kunti to her superiors, and the humility of the twins Nakula and Sahadeva, and all the people rejoiced in their heroic virtues. After a while, Arjuna obtained the Draupadi After a while, Arjuna obtained Draupadi at the Swayamvara in the midst of a concourse of Rajas by performing a very difficult feat of archery. And from this time, he became very much respected in this world among all bowmen as a, as a champion of, of the knowledge of the bow and arrow. And in fields of battle also, like the sun, he was hard to behold by any other competitive warriors. And having vanquished all the neighboring princes and every considerable tribe, he accomplished all that was necessary for the Raja, the eldest brother, to perform the great sacrifice called Rajasuya Yaga. Yudhishthira, after having, through the wise counsels of Vasudeva and by the valor of Bhimasena and Arjuna, slain Jarasandha, the king of Magadha, and the proud Chedi Raja, acquired the right to perform the grand sacrifice of Rajasuya, abounding in provisions and offerings and fraught with transcendent merits. And Duryodhana came to this sacrifice when he beheld the vast wealth of the Pandavas scattered all around, the offerings, the precious stones, gold and jewels, the wealth in the cows, elephants, and horses, the curious textures, garments, and mantles, the precious shawls and furs and carpets made of the skin of the Ronco. He was filled with envy and became exceedingly displeased. And when he found the hall of assembly elegantly constructed by Maya, the architect, after the fashion of a celestial court, he was inflamed with the rage, and having started in confusion at certain architectural deceptions within this building, he was derided by Bhimasena in the presence of Vasudeva like one of the mean descent. It was represented to Dhritarashtra that his son, while partaking of various objects of enjoyment and diverse precious things, was becoming meagre man and pale. Dhritarashtra, some time after, out of affection for his son, gave his consent to their playing with the Pandavas at game of dice. And Vasudeva, coming to know of this, became exceedingly unpleasant, and being dissatisfied, he did nothing to prevent the disputes, but overlooked the gaming and sundry other horrid, unjustifiable transactions arising therefrom. And in spite of Vidura, Bhishma, Drona, and Krupa, the son of Saradvan, he made the Kshatriyas kill each other in the terrific war that ensued. And Dhritarashtra, hearing the ill news of the success of the Pandavas and recollecting the resolutions of Duryodhana, Karna, and Shakuni, pondered for a while and addressed to Sanjaya the following speech. Attend, O Sanjaya, to all I am about to say, and it will not become thee to treat me with contempt. Thou art well versed in the Shastras, intelligent and endowed with wisdom. My inclination was never to war, nor did I delight in the destruction of my race. I made no distinction between my own children and children of Pandu. My own sons were prone to wilfulness and despised me because I am old, blind, as I am. Because of my miserable plight and through paternal affection, I bore it all. I was foolish after the thoughtless Duryodhana, ever growing in folly. Having been spectator of the riches of the mighty sons of Pandu, my son was derided for his awkwardness while ascending the hall, unable to bear it all and unable himself to overcome the sons of Pandu in the field, and though a soldier, unwilling yet to obtain good fortune by his own exertion, with the help of the king of Gandhara, he concerted an unfair game at dice. Dhritarashtra is telling Sanjaya, all that happened, thereupon and came to my knowledge. And when thou hast heard all I say, recollecting everything as it fell out, thou shalt not then know me for one with a prophetic eye. When I heard that Arjuna, having bent the bow and pierced the curious mark and brought it down to the ground and bore away in triumph the maiden Krishna in the sight of the assembled princes, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that Subhadra, of praise of Madhu, had after forcible seizure been married by Arjuna in the city of Dwaraka, and that the two heroes of the race of Vrishni, Krishna and Balarama, the brothers of Subhadra, without resenting it, and had entered Indraprastha as friends, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that Arjuna, by his celestial arrow, preventing the downpour by Indra, the king of the gods, had gratified Agni by making over to him the forest of Khandava. Then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that 5 Pandavas, with their mother Kunti, had escaped from the house of Lak, Araginamane, and that Vidura was engaged in the accomplishment of their designs, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that Arjuna, after having pierced the mark in the arena, had won Draupadi, and that the brave Panchalas had joined the Pandavas, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that Jarasandha, the foremost, the royal line of Magadha, and blazing in the midst of the Kshatriyas, had been slain by Bhima with his bare arms alone, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that in their general campaign the sons of Pandu had conquered the chief of the land and performed a grand sacrifice of the Rajasuya Yajna, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that Draupadi, her voice choked with the tears and heart full of agony in the season of impurity, and with but one raiment on, had been dragged into court, and though she had protectors, she had been treated as if she had none, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hopes of success. When I heard that the wicked wrath of Dushyasana was striving to strip off of that single garment, had only drawn from her person a large heap of cloth without being able to arrive at its end, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that Yudhishthira, beaten by Subala at the game of dice, and deprived of his kingdom as a consequence thereof, and still being attended upon by his brothers of incomparable prowess, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that the virtuous Pandavas, weeping with affliction, had followed their elder brother to the wilderness and exerted themselves variously for the mitigation of his discomforts, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. These are the grievances of Dhritarashtra. He is telling Sanjaya, by knowing so many steps of so many types of situation where Pandavas won the Kauravas, he has lost the hope of winning them. When I heard that Yudhishthira had been followed into the wilderness of Snatakas and noble-minded Brahmanas who live upon alms, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that Arjuna, having in combat pleased the god of gods, Trayambaka, the three-eyed man, the Shiva, in the disguise of a hunter, obtained the great weapon Pashupatastra, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. When I heard that the just and renowned Arjuna, after having been to the celestial regions, had there obtained celestial weapons from Indra himself, then, O Sanjaya, I had no hope of success. These are the situation Dhritarashtra explained to Sanjaya. We will continue the next portion of the chapter tomorrow.